Welcome back. This is the From A to Z podcast. I'm your host, PK Mukwedi. Today, I'm sitting with a fellow social media person. I don't do too many of these interviews, but today I'm sitting with someone who has worked on brands like Nestle, Clover, McDonald's, and now he is heading up social and digital content at AB and Bev. I'm speaking to none other than Digital Jan, Mr. Sanele Mawisa. Welcome, bro.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Thank you for joining me here on the From A to Z podcast. The name of the show is From A to Z. We want to find out where you began, so your upbringing, how you found advertising, and everything in between. Are you ready to go from A to Z?
Let's go.
Let's do it. I know you went to Rondebosch Boys High.
Yes.
In Cape Town, in the Western Cape. Are you from there, or are you from the Eastern Cape?
Yeah, so I was born in Mthatha, and then my family moved to Cape Town when I was 2 years old. So basically, I'm a Cape Townian. So from 2 years old, I was in Cape Town for about 26 years. Went to Rondebosch Primary School, then went to Grey High School for 2 years. I was in boarding school with Sia Kolisi, just for name drop.
Okay. Was he always a star?
Yeah, he was. He was very, very tiny though. He was very small.
Okay.
He had like a crazy growth spurt in like grade 10, grade 11, and we were like, oh, okay, hectic. And then, I did that for 2 years, Grey High School, boarding school for 2 years, and then I came back to Rondebosch High School in grade 10, where I matriculated, and then went to UCT.
Wait, we'll go there. We'll get there. It's from A to Z. It's from A to Z.
Okay. Yeah.
But Rondebosch, Eastern Cape boy. What kind of kid were you in school? Actually, were you more in the books, sports? Or I know you played rugby though.
Yeah. So I was a bit of an all-rounder. I played a lot of sports. I played rugby, cricket, the typical South African sports.
Right.
But also in terms of academics, I was quite decent. Maths, English, the staple kind of subjects. But I had a very, very big liking to rugby and cricket, which I still do now to this day. So that's the type of kid I was. I was always playing around with the ball somewhere, playing around the park with my mates. And that's the type of person, also quite outgoing. I was, I got donned the nickname Sunny. I don't really recall where it came from.
Okay.
If I have a sunny disposition, I don't know. But that's kind of the kid that I was growing up.
Is that where Mr. Mac's son comes from?
Yeah, it's an amalgamation of like a bunch of things, because then it was sunny and then it like turned into sunshine. And then when I created my first ever Twitter handle was Mr. Sunshine Guy. And then that kind of fell apart. And then I got Mr. Mac's son. So there's always like a Mr. involved somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if I feel like I'm a teacher or whatever, but
you're an official dude.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah.
So I like going back to people who are creative and in advertising and communications. Go back to your childhood. What are one of your first or favorite adverts that you remember from that time in your life? Whether you were like driving on the highway and you saw a billboard, or you heard a radio ad or something like that.
Yeah. So oddly enough, there's one of my social media managers on my team, Bongile. He was in an ad for Jungle Oats, the one where he kind of runs up the stairs like he's Rocky Balboa, and that's the one that I remember quite well. And I was also in an ad it was a glue ad. So we actually were playing cricket. And basically what happened was I was standing on one side of the crease, and then I would get bowled out, and then the balls would hit the stumps, but then the actual thing wouldn't fall apart, like the actual stumps wouldn't break. And then it was kind of an ad to show like how super glue actually really works.
Dope.
Yeah.
And you didn't go to any other auditions, or did you?
No. Dude, I was 11. They were like, just bat, dude. Just stand there and just play some shots, and then we'll do the rest.
Dope.
Yeah. So that was quite cool. But yeah, definitely that Jungle Oats ad is one that sticks to mind. And then also the Cremora one.
It's not inside, it's on top.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a South Africanism at this point.
Yeah.
Where is that? It's not inside, it's on top.
Exactly.
What about talking about while you were in school, very sporty and academic as well, which is amazing. You don't get most people who can balance the two.
Yeah.
Towards the end of matric in grade 11, when you're supposed to be choosing what you're going to study, you chose to study at UCT. Is it social sciences?
Yeah, social sciences.
Tell us about what went into that decision. Was it from your family? Was it something you picked up and you wanted to study? How did that happen?
Dude, it was first and foremost, I don't think any 17, 18-year-old should be given the power to decide what they want to study for their life. It's just way too daunting. And for me, it was one of those where I kind of just chose a bunch of subjects I liked and put them together, and that formulated a Bachelor of Social Science degree.
Okay.
Because basically growing up my whole life, I kind of wanted to be a psychologist. And then even when we did like these aptitude tests, I think in grade 11, you also in grade 11, you do work experience. I went to like a psychology firm, etc. So that was kind of where my path was leading to for most of my life. And then initially when I applied to UCT, I applied for a psychology degree. And then I also, because you apply for like one and then like a secondary one. So then the second one was a PPE, so it's a triple major in politics, philosophy, and economics, which was at the time was a very new degree that was like brought into the system or curriculum. It came from Oxford, I think. So I started off doing the psychology, but the reason for why I studied what I studied was I just kind of was like, I like politics, so I'll do that. I did ecos in school and I got really good marks for economics. So I was like, I can continue with that because I'm good with it. And then philosophy, I kind of always just found quite interesting. So yeah, it wasn't like super thought out or anything. It was just like, those seem like cool sort of majors to take and then I'll run with that, yeah.
How was your actual university experience?
It was the best experience of my life. If I could go back, I would. Especially because I was in Reds. And I think that type of experience in particular is one that like widens your horizons. You meet people from all over the world. You're living with people from all over the world. Cultural experiences that you get are second to none. And I've always said, like, people that go to varsity, you should take that opportunity with both hands because it shows you something and it gives you a level of experience that you will not get anywhere else ever again. I can guarantee you that. You're young. You're studying, there's so many different aspects to life of varsity that, you won't really experience everywhere else. And for me, the varsity experience isn't even so much about getting in, getting out, making sure you get your paper, your degree. It's about the hard knock life. It's like the university of life, You learn so much about yourself, what you like, what you don't like, who you like hanging out with, etc.
How to interact with people, how to take failure, how to take disappointment, all of that. Don't fail your subject, but you learn how to deal with different challenges.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I call it the university of life. That's what I always remember from that experience.
Yeah. Now, fast forward, because you studied that, but you ended up where you are now. In between that, or before that, what was your first actual job? Did you maybe, clean up gardens, walk dogs or anything? Like when you were young, what was your actual first job that you got paid money for? Yeah,
so my first job is I worked as a waiter at a restaurant in Claremont. My cousin was the manager, so that's the only reason I got the job. And I did that for about 6 months. Very interesting experience. It teaches a lot about people, interpersonal skills, how to deal with people in difficult situations. And I enjoyed it, man, because at that age, I was like 20, 21. How much was I getting? Probably like, I don't know, like 800 Rand a week. But this is like 2011, 2010.
Hey, bro, that 800 would hit, bro.
Hey, man. And it was all disposable income because I was still staying with my parents. So I wasn't paying for like a phone contract or insurance or any of that stuff. So every week I just have 800 Rand to do whatever I wanted with. So it was, I'm glad that was kind of my first experience in like the working life or working industry, especially like having to deal with strangers and, the service industry and whatnot. So it was a good first experience for me.
Yeah. Now, fast forward to your first, I guess, maybe not your first job, but you were a business unit manager at Instant Grass. Which is an insights and a
research agency, market research agency.
So it is an agency. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so essentially I first started off as a grass. So to give you context, the agency is called Instant Grass. And what they do is it's a market research agency. And what they get is they get digital ethnographers, which is essentially they get a database of people within a certain demographic to give them insights on brands, right? So they use those marketing insights and then build out strategies, right?
Yes.
So you initially start off as a grass. That's the name you're given, and that's the digital ethnographers. And so I was a grass starting off. So I'd get invited for like focus group sessions to talk about different projects that they're working on, or even get sent like a brief, because there was an app basically that they created called the Greenhouse. So everyone was housed on there, and then you get your own login details, and then you could see like, okay, cool, I've got a brief for this brand. And then you answer like, let's say a survey of like 20 questions. So that's how I started off. And then eventually I was like, actually, you know what? I want to be the person that manages these grasses. So that person was called the network manager. And at the time, the person who had that role was one of my older brother's friends. And I was like, one night I was out at Pig and Swizzle and Rondebosch, and I was like, yo, man, so I've got an ultimatum for you. Either you get promoted and you move on and then you give me your job, or you quit and you just leave. And he was like, all right, whatever, dude. And then literally 2 weeks later, he's like, I just got promoted. So are you still keen for that job? And I was like,
Okay.
of course, man. So
Fortune favors the bold.
yeah. So I started off as a network manager, so managing that network of digital ethnographers. And it was quite a big group of people. It was like 6,000 people in the database because it was not just South African, it was in the greater Africa as well. And then that was kind of the first role that I had and my first experience in marketing, which is great because I entered in below the line. So with market research, it's all below the line stuff. So you're dealing with people on the ground, you're seeding products, you're getting actual information from people on the ground. Those insights that are crucial to building out like bigger strategies.
Yes.
Yeah. So I started that and I did that for about 2 years. And then that role kind of has like a ceiling, like you shouldn't really be doing it for more than 2 or 3 years. It's a young man's game.
Right.
And then I got the opportunity to then become a business unit manager, which in the general agency sense is like a client service manager. So I was then tasked to like handle accounts, also work on and trying to bring in business into the company, which was not my strong suit at all. Like I wanted to go into strategy, but they saw fit not to give me that opportunity to go into strategy. And then I went into the business unit manager role, which wasn't up my alley and didn't really suit my personality. But anyway, it was a good experience nonetheless.
Yeah. Then Ogilvy, Cape Town, as a social media manager, how did that come about? Were you looking for jobs? Did you hit that ceiling like you mentioned? You're like, look, it's time for new horizons.
So oddly enough, my leaving Instant Grass was rather acrimonious, and by the time that I left, I did not have like a gig planned.
Sure.
And literally the day that I left, it's quite a funny story. I was literally walking out of Instant Grass for the very last time, and as I opened the door to like walk out, my phone rang, and then I'm like, okay, I don't really know this number, and it's like a 021 landline number. So I answer, and it's like, hey, is this Sanele Mawisa? I'm like, yeah. It's like, so I'm a recruiter at Ogilvy. I just wanted to know, are you by any chance interested in a job? I'm like, as of 7 seconds ago, yes, I am. They're like, okay, cool. We've got a social media community management role. Are you keen to like interview? I was like, yeah. And like at the time, I'm like, this is my GOAT agency, dude. Like this is the one that I've always wanted to work on. I didn't expect to get that call at that stage.
And living in Cape Town, you see it all the time,
yeah,
right?
exactly. On Woodstock,
on Woodstock, you see it all the time.
Yeah. So I went for an interview, and then I also found out that like two of my high school alumni were there as well. Like they weren't in my year, but they were like the year below me. They were also working there. And then I told them like, yo, I just got an interview at Ogilvy. They're like, dude, we're going to make sure you get this job. Like, so they told everyone like, yo, Sunny's the best, like da-da-da-da. And then, got that gig working at like an agency that I thought would probably take 5 or 6 years to get. And then I got there like quite soon after I started Instant Grass. And then, I basically got put onto the South African Breweries account. So I was a social media manager for Castle Light, Carling Black Label, Flying Fish, and then there was a new Flying Fish variant that also came out recently, like from when I joined. But basically those 4 or 5 accounts were the ones that I started off with when I got to Ogilvy.
Dope. And that experience, what was that like actually? Being there in the trenches as a social media manager. I know people from different job roles watch this, but it's a different gig. Tell us about what it was actually like.
Yeah, so, you're working on like South African breweries brands are some of the biggest in the country. So it comes with a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
In terms of like performance, like it's a high performance role. So I was kind of thrown in the deep end and was like, dude, we basically hired you because we thought you're cool. The people that our brands speak to, we're trying to speak to cool people. So 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
And then, I did that and it went quite well. Like, I think my first big project was working on J. Cole. Sure. So obviously Castlelight had their platform called Unlocks.
Yeah.
So that was the first project that I worked on, was like, how can we get people thinking that this is cool, that J. Cole's cool? Because at the time, I mean, this is what, like 2014, like from a South African perspective, which might sound crazy, J. Cole was still a bit niche.
Yes,
like he wasn't mainstream, wasn't Drake or anything. So what I did was basically I created this, content series on YouTube where we basically did like a round table. It was basically the same aspect of like how MTV would do like their hip hop round table. Yeah. And I got, a host and then a couple of like South African rappers. So you had like Slicker, you had Reason, a few of those guys basically talking about J. Cole, what they can expect him to bring to South Africa, what his discography is like, and breaking that down, because basically my job was to give an awareness to South Africans about who this person is. And that the amount of pressure, the amount of other agencies involved, because you have production agencies, you have lead creative agencies, you have so many other people that are.
But before that, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Before that, you have to sell this idea. You have to sell this concept to your own team.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm just, at the time, it's like, I'm just a community manager, you know? But the problem is that I think when the brief kind of came in, the creative team couldn't crack it. And to be honest, it was one of those where they came to me and they were like, dude, we're at our wits' end. Like, we don't know how to tackle this brief. Can you come in and help out? You know, you're just a community manager. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll work in. So I ended up, I don't know, being a social media strategist, being creative director, because I also planned like where it's going to be shot, how it needs to be shot, etc. Even though I was just a community manager, but you know, it worked out quite well in terms of that YouTube series. So that was my I guess baptism of fire into SAB in working in Ogilvy.
I always mention that the social media team are the people on the ground. So we have the insights. We know how people are going to tend to react to different things. So always listen to your team, no matter how junior they actually are.
Yeah, 100%.
Then fast forward, Digitas. When you moved to Joburg, was it 20?
So I first moved to Licorice within Digitas in Cape Town, and then I transferred to the Joburg office.
When did you move to Joburg and why?
I moved to Joburg 2018.
And what was the role?
So I was still a social media manager, so working at Digitas Licorice, which is under the Publicis Group. So I moved in 2018. I moved to Joburg, I think mostly because I kind of felt like I'd reached a plateau in Cape Town. And also,
is the pay scale really lower in Cape Town? Is it?
Yeah. There's a massive difference. There's a massive difference.
Okay.
Yeah, and you kind of get a little bit comfortable in Cape Town in terms of like your career progression, like your growth and development, like where you see yourself going. You kind of just like, I'm alright here. I can do this for a couple of years. And I had at the time been doing it for a couple of years, and I just thought to myself, if I really want to challenge myself and be the best, I need to go where there's stiffer competition.
Right.
Because to be honest, I kind of got to a point where I was like, I'm kind of killing shit for a while, and like no one's really like putting pressure on my neck to actually like do more.
You're coasting.
Yeah,
exactly. And when you realize you're coasting, it might take a while, but when you do, you're like, oh wait, hey, I'm not doing too much right
exactly.
here.
Yeah, I wasn't pushing myself as much.
Yes.
So then I was like, because it was kind of like a big fish in a small pond thing, and I'm like, okay, let me go where all the big dogs are and see if I can test myself.
Exactly.
Which is a difficult thing for me to do because I am like the most Cape Townian person you ever meet, and I lived there for like 26 years. So coming to the big bad place of Joburg was quite daunting, but I thought, you know what, if I don't take this chance, I'm going to regret it one day. That was the main reason for me coming to Joburg and transferring into Digitas Licorice, into the Joburg office here.
And what was that experience like? Different city, same role, but same pressure or different pressure?
Yeah, I think for me, it felt like I had another opportunity to like start afresh, to like build my brand again within the Joburg context. So for me, it was exciting and also nerve-wracking because also people didn't really know me here. So, you know, I could start from scratch in terms of who I wanted to be perceived as and what I wanted to get out of the experience, as opposed to being in Cape Town for so long where like everyone kind of knew me in that space. So in Joburg, it was, you know, giving me that opportunity to kind of stake a claim for myself in the space, and also build new relationships and network and that type of stuff, and figure out what the main differences are in terms of ad land in Cape Town and ad land in Joburg. Because, you know, obviously everyone knows, like from a creative point of view, like the creative hub is Cape Town. But I wanted to see how things like work in Joburg and put my foot in the door and see how I can make my mark in the space. It was tricky in the beginning. I won't lie, I did kind of feel uncomfortable, and mostly because of the environment and the type of lifestyle Joburg comes with, like very fast paced.
Way faster, I can imagine.
The relationships that you build with people are like purely like what benefits you and what benefits me, and I kind of had to see through that. Like I thought I made friends, but I'm like, these people aren't really my friends.
But you see, the thing is, I hear that about Cape Town. They say, oh, Cape Town's so cliquey. Listen,
yeah, it is.
So it's all relative.
It is all relative, right? And I've had a lot of Joburg friends tell me like how cliquey Cape Town is and stuff, and I think I had to leave for me to then see it, because then I'd go back home and then I'd be like, oh, okay, now I know what you guys are talking about. But then in that sense, it's just adaptation, dude. It was just me having to adapt to my new environment. And yeah, that's kind of the initial phase that I went through once I moved to Joburg. Yeah.
Then where we are now, AB and Bev, I think you started off as a social media strategist, right?
Digital strategist.
Digital strategist.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so by the time I left Digital Licorice, I then moved into a social media strategist role, which I was doing for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. And then the opportunity, so I always wanted to come back and work on SAB. So when I heard about Draftline and this new internal agency that works within SAB, I was like, okay, that seems cool. And then also a few of my friends who I worked with at Ogilvy were actually also at Draftline. So I was like, you know what, there's an opportunity for me to come back. And then I came in as a digital strategist because at the time there weren't any social media roles. It was all just like kind of junior community manager roles in terms of what they were doing.
And how many years were you? How many years experience did you have at that point?
At the time I got to Draftline. Probably about 7 or 8 years.
Okay, yeah,
7 or 8 years experience.
You wouldn't go for a junior role at that point.
Exactly, yeah. So I came in as lead digital strategist on the high-end accounts. So that's Smirnoff, Budweiser, Stella Artois, and Corona. So I was leading the digital strategy then, but I did it literally for 2 months.
Yes, and then I see you became the social team lead.
Yeah. So what happened is that the social media function or output or community management output was being insourced from another agency. So they got people from another agency to come and sit in Draftline to perform that role of like social media and community management. Now, within 2 months of me being here, that contract that we had, Draftline, with that agency was coming to an end.
Right.
And the MD at the time was like, I don't want to extend this contract. So what are we going to do? And I was like, you know what? Most of my background is in social media. I've got a lot of experience in social media. I feel like I can definitely take on kind of maybe building a new department.
Yes, at least set it off and build it correctly.
Exactly. And then, it took back and forth. I presented to so many people, Exco members, back and forth.
Why should you have a social media team? And why should I be at the helm?
And why should I do it?
Yes.
And then eventually, they liked what I presented and they were like, go for it, dude. So literally within my probation, I got promoted to social media team lead.
Fortune favors the bold.
And that was the craziest experience ever because this was slap bang in the middle of COVID. I basically had to build a department from scratch in COVID, and it being my first leadership position ever. It was crazy because I had to hire people on Zoom. I had to brief people on Zoom. I'd never met them. I think the first time I met my team was when we came back into office, I think 6 months after I took the job. Being like, oh, hey, you look like the person I hired. Are you? So it was crazy. I think for me, it was probably the biggest, lesson and biggest challenge that I ever took on in my career, but something that I definitely don't regret. I think the lessons that I took from building a team, knowing who to hire, knowing what you want to achieve for your department, not next month, not in a couple of months, but next year and in 2 years and in 3 years' time, and building out that department strategy was something great that I did and that I still continue to do now. Yeah.
So then you took your strategic experience and expertise and your social media expertise, and now you're head of social and digital content here at Draftline. Tell us about that role and how much difference is it from a social media team lead role to where you are now?
Once you get to a head of department role, the operational and administrative level of that role goes up tenfold. So I guess what we talk about it at AB InBev is the difference between working in the business and on the business. So in the business means that like you're dealing with the day-to-day, like, okay, cool, this work needs to look like this, and this is the best in class in terms of what we're doing. This is best practice. So you kind of just leave that to your team to kind of manage, and now you're working on departmental strategy, like, okay, how are you going to be the best social media department in Africa? What are the steps you need to take to do that? What are the tools you need to do that type of stuff? So you're working on the business to build the product of your department, as opposed to, and you're also just managing resources, managing human beings, putting them where they need to be, growing and developing the people in your department. So I think the last time I probably put together any sort of like work presentation, as in like social content or digital strategy, was like maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Sure.
Okay. That's what the role requires. It requires you to map out the strategy for your department for you to actually get better year on year.
Yeah. Don't give us the gems or the juice or the sauce, but what does go into building a award-winning team?
Yeah, so I think your strategy in terms of your recruitment strategy, first and foremost, has to align to your goals and what your actual objectives are. So if you're clear on your path of how to become the best, so if it's you want to have the most engaged communities, then you use that as a benchmark to go, if I want the most engaged communities, what type of people do I need to hire with what type of background, right? And then it's not also only just the technical aspects of what you kind of need for those people. It's the humans, like what type of behaviors do you need them to have? Are they go-getters? Are they proactive in their work? Have they shown initiative in what they're doing? Because a lot of the work we need to do to become the best is to take initiative, right? We can't really work with people that are quite passive in what they're doing and just waiting for briefs,
Gotta be
etc.
proactive.
100%. So, just formulating what you need to do to get to where you need to get to, and then hiring accordingly, and then building out a clear strategy that you can impart on them and say, we focus on 1, 2, 3 things, and we'll be the best at these things. And anything that doesn't fit in those things, rather let those go, because it's just going to distract us from our overall goal.
Exactly. If you be granular with your goals, if you're religious, be granular with your prayers, and it should come to fruition, right?
Yeah. 100%.
So tell us about actually let's get into the fun parts right now. It's called All Up in Your Business. All Up in Your Business. It's where I went to your social media platforms, kind of had a look around, snooped around, took some screenshots of things that I want some context of. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
You don't seem worried at all. Everybody tends to be worried, but I tell them this is a safe space. But you know that already.
Yeah, for sure.
Number one, all black in the desert, because I'm the only heater.
Yeah.
Firstly, of course you have to get the outfit off.
Yeah.
But it's all black in the desert. Was it not hot, bro?
It was damn hot.
Yeah.
But drippers forever, man. So we gotta do what you gotta do.
I feel you. But then the actual where you were in Doha. You were in the desert in Doha.
Yeah.
And this one comes from a photo set where it says, "This is going to be long but necessary." I'll put the screenshot on this so y'all can read it. But this is you at the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience. And did AB and Bev send you?
Yeah, so
I thought you put your coins together and you said, "Hey, I'm going."
No, you can see where I'm just wearing like Budweiser kit all day, every day. So obviously Budweiser was a global sponsor for the FIFA World Cup.
Yeah.
And for us, we had an opportunity as each of the different regions like Budweiser Africa, Brazil, etc., to build out a plan on how we're going to become the best performing region within Budweiser for the World Cup. So, we built out these quite extensive war rooms where you'd have people sitting down in a boardroom, and it's your strategist, it's your data analyst, it's your social media manager, it's everyone sitting in a room, and you literally war rooming and planning each game day, how you're going to increase your share of voice, how you're going to increase your engagement rate. And our team actually globally was the best in terms of the engagement that we got.
Dope.
But that's not the reason I went. It was there was actually an internal.
That's huge. Sorry, let's pause. That's huge. You say out of all the regions that went.
Yeah.
So like I said, if you plan, you hire correctly, you have your strategy, that's what happens.
Yeah. But so as I said, it's not the reason I went though. It's basically we had an internal competition at SAB to get people to sign up to one of our platforms, and the person that obviously got the most signups then would get an expenses paid trip. So. Yeah, that was me.
You won.
I called my auntie, my uncle, my grandma to sign up to this platform. All my friends, and eventually, I won, and then got sent to go to Doha for the World Cup, which was mind blowing.
Jeez, favorite game?
Must have been the final. Yeah. So watching Argentina and France, seeing Messi, arguably the greatest football player of all time,
definitely.
Live and direct, was insane.
We're gonna go see what he's gonna do in is it LA or is it Miami?
Miami.
We're gonna see.
Yeah, we're gonna see. Yeah, but it was even now when I talk about that experience, I don't actually have the words for it, because obviously I'm a big football fan, and being able to watch a World Cup is something that not many people can say. Being able to watch a World Cup final is not something that many people can say, and then also watching it in an overseas country is just it was insane.
Did you not go to any of the 2010 World Cup games?
Yeah, I did. I went to one of the France games at the Greenpoint Stadium. But again, I think watching a World Cup overseas is a completely different experience. Dude.
I can imagine, yeah.
You know, the different cultures and the people that you see there. Also because you're not just going there to watch obviously football games, you are obviously learning about the culture and experiencing the culture of the country.
Yeah, dope. Next one. This one's from your Twitter. The person is asking, do you guys still have your pictures from first year of varsity? Shebatung, let me see them. This is you. I don't know. Is it cold? Is it warm? What's going on? You have a vest on, some khaki shorts. I don't know. It's not khaki, pants.
Yeah.
The belt on tight with the cups. What's
Yeah.
going on here, man? First year. Talk to me.
Yeah, man, that was my style, bro. That was my style. I liked wearing vests. And also, I'm a big fan of Havianas. I told you, I'm a coastal guy. Dude,
Well,
right?
yes.
That's Cape Town uniform right there that I was wearing. So, yeah, that is most of what I was wearing in first year. Yeah, definitely don't look like that anymore. But yeah,
Yeah, no, the swag has improved. Nah, for real. The swag is Joe.
Yeah,
It's more
I gotta-
Joburg.
yeah, I
Not that
gotta-
Cape Town guys can't dress, but yes, no.
Yeah.
This is definitely a coastal outfit.
yeah, no, 100%. Cape Town, Durban, PE. That's the gig. That's how we dress.
Dope. Moving to this one. I love this. Siyasebenza only rest in December.
Yeah.
Only certain age group will get that, but that's from Okay Malum Cool Cat.
Yeah.
I used to live by that. When that song came out, I was in college though. But you know, it's college, dude. Like, do you still live by that? Only rest in December? Do you work non-stop? Are you on your laptop at night at home working hard, burning the midnight oil?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you work on social media, because social media never turns off, you can't really
Comes
turn
with
off
it.
either.
Yeah.
It comes with the gig, right?
Yeah.
But I do try and have moments where like I pull away because of like overconsumption of digital content gets a little bit overwhelming. So there'll be times where I'll take like a social media break, etc. But yeah, for the most part, you have to be on it 24/7. And you say Siyasebenza only rest in December. I wish I could only rest in December because obviously you still have campaigns running.
Yep,
you need to
yep.
check what's going on because you know the clients or the brand partners are also like they check the socials and they're like, oh, what's going on?
Exactly.
So yeah, and I mean especially like when we went through the COVID time when alcohol was banned, we had to do like these daily reports like peak December. I remember. I think it was like the 26th of December. I was at Clifton Beach, chilling, hanging out. I get a call from my MD being like, yo, Sanele, where are you? I'm like, yo, I'm on the beach chilling. It's like, so I'm going to need you to go home, open your laptop. I just sent you a report. I need you to go through it, interrogate it, give me feedback, and I need you to send that back to the MD within the next hour. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is the gig.
Yep.
So yeah, I try and rest in December, but you know, it's the way the gig goes.
I was in Cape Town once on skeleton stuff. I was in Tanzania once on skeleton stuff. As long as I have my laptop, I can generally work anywhere. So but that definitely does come with the role.
Yeah.
Next one, catch flights and feelings.
Yeah.
Tell me one of your favorite travel destinations.
So this was when I was going to Maldives.
2017.
Yeah, Maldives, yeah. So that was also a work trip. So I worked on Clover, but specifically the Tropica brand.
Right.
So if anyone knows, Tropica had a TV series called Tropic Island of Treasure, which is still ongoing, by the way. So this was season 8. And Tropica was one of our clients at Publicis at Digital Licorice. So I worked on the Tropica account, and then we shot the TV series in Maldives over a 3-week period. And yeah, it's Maldives, dude. It's one of the most beautiful places ever. But yeah, it was grueling work, dude. It was like working 16-hour days for 3 weeks straight. So as much as it was a beautiful place, you know, I didn't get to enjoy it as much as I would have liked.
Next one. One of the last, This person on Twitter, he said, I need to move to a place that's puppy friendly and get one. You reply saying, I think I need one too, yes. Not keen on the whole dog training part. He or she must come grand.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What's going on here?
Nah, so yeah, we've had in my house, I think maybe 3 dogs. And all of them, well, except for the last one, the other 2, they were like potty trained. My brother trained them. And I just saw like what it takes to train a dog. And I was like, I'm not about that life. Especially now that I'm getting older, like I don't have the time for that type of stuff. So that's why I was like, you must come grand. Like there mustn't be things where like every day I'm like, oh, why are you peeing in the kitchen and whatever. You just need to be trained grand.
Must come grand.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting older, you are 33. You turned 33 on the 14th of May.
Yeah, last month.
I'm on the 19th of May, not too far apart.
Yeah.
33 is the atomic number of arsenic.
Okay.
And also, a normal human spine has 33 vertebrae when the bones that form the coccyx are counted individually. How you feel about that?
What did you just say?
How do you feel about being 33 and the journey thus far?
Yeah, okay. No, 33 is crazy, man. Time flies. And I think everything after, I think you learn or reflect a lot more once you hit your 30.
Yeah.
And then everything after that is just about how life is just full of being an adult, bro. It's like, I didn't even choose this life. I didn't choose to be here, but I have to be an adult. All of a sudden, every day after work, you think about, okay, I need to get groceries. Okay, what's happening on the weekend? When people make plans with you, it's like, man, you need to make plans with me 2 weeks in advance and you need to send me a Google invite because I can't just get up and just do stuff these days. But I think all the lessons and stuff that I've learned have obviously put me in good stead in terms of my future and how I plan on obviously building on what I've done so far in my life. And 33 is a wise age, man. I think once you get to that stage, as I said, after 30, like, I think things become a lot clearer in terms of what you want for yourself, the trajectory that you're on, the lessons that you've learned, and just taking things like as they come, you know? Because I think once you get to that age, you kind of know what you like and what you don't like and what you want for yourself and what you don't want. And I think you're a lot more unapologetic about those things. I think before, when you're younger, you're like, I don't know, maybe I don't want to do this because it's going to be perceived as this. And like, man, do what you need to do for yourself because that's the only thing that's going to be important at the end of the day.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
You survived all up in your business, all up in your business. How was that though?
No, it was cool. That was very interesting. I like that little segment there that you had.
I've been minding your business. Now tell me, Tell me about an influential person from your career. It could be in the beginning of your career. It could be somebody who's your mentor now. Tell me about somebody who sticks in your mind and them telling you, hey, no, do it like this way. Don't do it that way. Do it this way. Somebody who was there for you. Yeah,
so I've had a few mentors over the years. There was one that I had at Instant Grass. He was a strategist. And just the way that he thought, his thought process about how he went going through his strategies, how he developed his strategies, was like a great help to me, and it was quite an eye opener. And that, like, he was my mentor for quite a while. And then going forward, I had one when I got to AB and Bev. He was the head of strategy that came in, but he came in after I already joined. And I think, besides him just being a very smart and intellectual person and he knows how to, you know, present things, how to get things across the line, it was more about the lessons, like the human lessons he taught me about, like how to deal with my job, my role, the level of responsibility, managing people, what that comes with. It's helped me a lot in terms of managing myself in what I do. And he's still a mentor to me till this day. And then also I've got a mentor from when I was at Licorice. I wasn't hired by him, I was hired by someone else, but then he ended up being my line manager. And he's helped me in so many different ways in terms of like building my confidence, putting trust in me. And now, I reach out to him for almost any and everything. But I think mentors are very crucial in your career in terms of how to navigate it.
Yeah. 10 years plus in, would you start your own agency, whether it's 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, I've been asked this question quite a lot, and for me, it's I like operating within a certain particular structure. I've never really seen myself as an entrepreneur. I coined this weird term because I've worked with people that have built businesses and they've brought me in the beginning phase that most of my best work is entrepreneur adjacent. So it's like I don't want to be distracted by the responsibilities of like paying people, and you, like in the beginning, you have to be the electrician, you have to be the cleaner, you have to be all of that type of stuff. I kind of just want to focus on what I'm good at. And I think once you become an entrepreneur, you have to be a jack of all trades and be able to do everything and everything.
Consulting.
Yes, that is something and I mean, I have done consulting before in previous roles, and even if it's just like an ear for people to just get my views on certain things, like I'm definitely up for that type of stuff. Yeah.
Any creatives that inspire you? Could be a musical artist, a physical artist, or anything like that.
Kid Cudi, and especially with that animated series he came out with.
What was it?
I can't even remember the name now. I watched it with my brother. I don't know. It was probably like a couple of months ago. But he basically came out with this like animated series where he's like the main actor, and it like takes you on a journey of this guy who's just trying to like come up in the world and be an artist, and him navigating through life and living in New York. And like for me, I like multidisciplinary artists. So like you can see Kui, he's a musical artist, but like he did his own drawings. There's like art direction there. There's graphic design, and that's the type of stuff that inspires me. Is that how can you apply your creative mind in different like disciplines and stuff, which is cool for me.
Yeah. What was it like? Speaking of siblings, you mentioned your brother. What was it like growing up with a sister in the limelight?
Yeah, well, for me, it's one of those where in the house, obviously with Sia and I, my brother, we lived together, and we didn't really stay together with our sister. So for me, it was one of those where, like, obviously I knew about her and her upbringing and her being in the limelight and being a model, and then eventually kind of working in like the presenting entertainment space. Obviously people come up to me and ask me questions like, how's Claire, and etc. But for me, it was one of those where I was just focused on what I'm doing in my space, and not so much, what's going on with her. But obviously, kudos to what she's done and what she's done for her career. So I'd always be proud of that stuff. But it was always like okay, cool. I don't know what you want me to say.
Exactly. I mean, look, for some kids, I guess it could be a negative effect if they don't get as much attention or whatever. But you seem like you were well put together.
Yeah.
Well put together.
I hope so. Anyway. Yeah.
In closing, what do the next 10 years look like for you and for South African advertising and communications?
I hate doing the 10 years, 5 years thing, but I'll try and oblige you. For me, I think it's doing what I do, but driving more impact, like social impact. I want to see what I can do in my space to drive actual societal change.
Like you're on the IEB Youth Council?
Yeah, IEB Youth Council,
yes. That's the type of... You already started, basically.
Yeah, I have already started, but I think growing it to a point where, it becomes my main focus is something that I love doing. And also growing and developing talent is something that's always been a part of my life. I used to coach rugby as well, which is one of my other big passions that I had. So always being in the growing and developmental space for me is where I'll always see myself. I think it's just the stage and the level to which I do it at will grow over time. And then in the ad industry changes every couple of months. Like it's always moving and changing and adapting in different ways. And I think with the advent now of AI, we can see kind of where we're going in terms of technology. I, for one, am a little bit scared about it.
Like you said, 10 years is a bit far to think, with all this AI, which kind of hit like that.
So to imagine what things will be like in 10 years is quite a daunting and scary prospect in terms of the impacts it might have on human communication, human engagement, and jobs and stuff like that. So I hope there's always going to be a space for us as humans to add into the process of marketing and advertising. So that we're not completely replaced by robots and things. Yeah,
exactly. Any final words from A to Z listeners? These could be young people in college about to graduate and try to find their first agency job. This could be people in the agency life already. This could be our seniors that you're talking to. Any words for them? Yeah,
I think if you have a passion for advertising and marketing, just put in the work, put in your research. Get any and every opportunity to show value in what you do, because at the end of the day, that's what people care about, right? In terms of why are you special, what value do you particularly have, what insights do you have that can either drive a business forward, drive a brand forward, and don't be afraid to take risks and chances. That's been one of the main themes in my career about taking a chance and putting myself out there, because if you don't, you'll never know, right? You don't score any of the shots you don't take. So that's kind of my main advice that I'll give.
I think a theme in this podcast has been that you are not scared to take that shot. You seem to be quite confident in yourself, even in a quiet, subdued manner. And that's all it takes. Sometimes put yourself out there, put your hand up, make sure your voice is heard. With that, I'll say thank you for joining me on From A to Z, Mr. Mac's son, Sanele Mawisa. This has been another one.
From A to Z, it's plain to see. This podcast is about people in my industry. writers, designers, social media managers. Don't forget the data miners, HRPR, find out who they are and how they made it this far. From A to Z, talk about your family, talk about the goals you reach, talk about the plans you see. Let's get it. Welcome aboard. I'm your host, PK Mugweni, and this is the From A to Z podcast.